Okay, we are live. Those watching at home, see someone in the chat below, welcome. Let us know if you can see us and hear us. I think we're good. Getting the hang of this. Hello, everyone. Here, welcome to our Elixir Kitchen. We have an exciting community connections, cooking and nutrition class for you today. Really exciting topic. This was something that Daniela brought forward that I'm super interested in. So I'm really excited to hear about not only today's topic, but research and put together a few interesting recipes to pair with your theme. So let's get started.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jeremy Capone,
Oh,
on the chat.
We'll do that. Yeah. My name's Jeremy. I feel like I know everyone here, but yes, if you're watching at home, my name is Jeremy. Welcome everyone to our cooking nutrition class and the amazing Daniela Fellini.
There we go. Hello. So I'm getting used to being here in person because I was at home for the longest time. So anyway, yes, today we are exploring blue zones. And they're regions of the world that are considered to have the healthiest people and the people who live the longest. So we thought it would be fun, since there's so much about it in the news. There's a documentary about it on Netflix. We were just talking about that here. A couple of best-selling books on it. We thought it would be fun to take a look at how the people in the blue zones live, how they eat, what they eat, if they're active or not, and compare it to the message we get for cancer risk reduction, right? So what the American Institute for Cancer Research says, and also what Health Canada says in Canada's Food Guide to Healthy Eating. So before we start, I have a question for the class, and people can, chat. In the chat, they can respond in the chat. Do you know why the blue zones are blue? No.
Little trivia today, all right.
Yeah, a little trivia. Okay. I found this fascinating because I thought there was a lot of science behind it, and I'm like, okay, why are they blue? Is it the food or whatever? No science related to it. Dan Buettner is the journalist who worked with the National Geographic and the National Institute for Aging to study the habits of people in the blue zones. And basically he and his team, this is so kind of a letdown, used a blue pen to circle the zones on the map. Ended up calling it the blue zones. Yeah, that was it. And do you know, can you name any of the blue zones? You can just shout it out. Costa Rica, yeah.
Italy?
Yeah. Sardinia, Italy. Greece, yeah. Icaria, Greece.
It's 3.
Costa Rica, Greece, Italy. 2 more.
One is in our continent.
Oh.
We will cheat.
Yeah. Not Canada.
In California, it's on the tip of my tongue.
I know, it kind of rolls on the tongue a little bit. Loma Linda.
Yes.
Loma Linda, California is one of them.
Yes.
Yes. And then the other one is not our continent.
No.
It's in
A little further away.
Asia. Is it in
Yes.
Asia?
Yes.
Is it Japan?
It's in Japan.
Japan, Okinawa, Japan.
Yeah.
Very good. So before we get into the recipes, I do have to say that with the popularity of the blue zones, there also comes criticism. And the criticism is that it's not evidence-based. And there are some questions about the validity of the ages of the people and whether they really are over 100. But even so, we thought it would be fun to tour the blue zones and look at the recipes that Jeremy put together, inspired by the blue zones. And shall we get started?
Let's get started.
Let's get started.
We had guesses coming in on the chat as well.
Yeah?
Yeah, so we had Okinawa, Japan from Sarah, so yes.
I almost drank this. This isn't my water.
That's not your water? No.
Okay, that would not be good. I mean, it would be good, but...
very tasty, but different type of beverage.
Okay, so first recipe. So our first recipe is the sabuzzo. and it's a Sardinian herb and bean soup. So we're starting our tour of the Blue Zones in Sardinia. And the Blue Zone way of eating is predominantly plant foods, which aligns with the recommendations from Health Canada and the American Institute for Cancer Research. And they recommend eating more plant foods, less animal foods, to support our health and reduce cancer risk. The premier protein choice in the Blue Zone are legumes, also called pulses, also called dried peas and beans and lentils. And the feature protein in this simple soup is broad beans, also known as fava beans. And they're packed with protein, fiber, and health protective compounds, one of which is called polyphenols. I'll turn it over to Jeremy now for the recipe.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so all these dishes that we're going to be making today, we try to get inspired by some of these Blue Zone locations. So they're definitely not authentic, because I know that you don't want to, especially for this one, the anger on the Sardinian nonas out there. So we take sort of inspiration. We're going to make a few little changes, but with this soup, the sabutsu means sort of lots of herbs. So it's a very herbaceous dish, and we're going to use some bitter greens too. So lots of greens, lots of herbs, very flavorful. But it's also using ingredients that, like beans, which you can use canned beans. You're using some aromatics. You can use some onion and garlic, and then almost like this little pasta. So it's a very sort of satiating dish as well. So it's like that has that comfort feel to it. So I think it's perfect for the time of year, even though this is more, I would say more of like a spring soup because of all the herbs.
Yeah.
I think this is perfect for the cooler months as well. Okay, so we're gonna get started with some of those aromatics. We have it's a little bit of chopped up onion. I have some garlic that I just crushed with the side of my knife. One thing I noticed with the garlic, and sometimes you may notice this at home too, is sometimes there's a little sprout, a little green sprout in the middle. This is optional. It can make your dish a little bit bitter, like slightly bitter. But some people, they don't notice it, but removing it, just that little sprout, so you sort of split it, and a little bit closer. There we go. So you can see that little green sprout, and then if you split it, then you can just remove it easily. So sometimes you have it, sometimes you don't, but I like to remove it. And then garlic in, so I have a little bit of olive oil in my pot, medium heat, a little bit of onion, any onion, just roughly chopped. Add that as well. Any other aromatics you want to add, go for it. One of my favorites, and this for me reminds me of the holidays and winter, is fennel. Has anyone used fennel before? Okay, so I've never used it before. It has this sort of mild licorice flavor to it. Texturally, very similar to celery, so it's going to have that crunch. But it has this really, really nice flavor to it. So what you usually do, now this is like just sort of half of the fennel. It's usually the whole bulb, and you have these long stems on top. We remove these stems. These are very fibrous. You don't want to be chewing on these. You can save this for stock, for your broths. This is absolutely delicious. We'll dunk it in there for now. And then for the fennel itself, we're just going to give it a rough dice. Now the fennel is layered like an onion, which is helpful because a lot of that work is already done for me. So instead of doing a cross cut like you might see commonly with an onion, which I think, unless you're very, very comfortable with your knife, it can be a dangerous move because you're pushing the blade towards your hand. It's already layered, so I really just have to go cut against those layers, okay? So I'm going to make my cuts against the layers, and then I'll cross that so that I get my dice. And because, again, it's layered like an onion, you'll get a nice dice out of the fennel. And we're good to go. Add this to, actually, my favorite tools. Let's see if I have it.
Favorite tools? Well, we know that.
Yeah, palette knife.
Black Friday.
So another thing, because we're talking about knife safety, pushing again, scooping. We use our knife all the time, right? We use it to scoop. We use it for all these things. Again, anytime you can avoid pushing your knife towards your hand, I think is a good idea. Plus, dragging it across the cutting board will dull your knife out a bit. These bench scrapers, you can get these at like most culinary stores. You can get them online as well. They're great for picking up your prep, and scooping it into your pot or wherever it needs to go. So yeah, Christmas. Did you say Christmas gift?
Christmas gift, Black
Idea?
Friday gift.
Yeah. So
Also,
good.
I think I've been hanging around Jeremy too long because I believe I dreamed last night that I was looking at my knife and it was crooked. Jeremy would not have been happy about
Yeah, no.
dreaming about a knife. That's
Yeah. All right. So all your aromatics inside your pot. We got the fennel, onion, garlic, and we're just going to soften this a little bit, like 3-4 minutes. Nothing too complicated. While that softens, I'll throw it back to you.
Sure. So beans and greens, they're actually my favorite too. And the great thing is that when you combine the beans and greens, the beans are giving you some great plant protein, and the broad beans, in a half cup of broad beans or fava beans, you get about 7 grams of protein, which is pretty good, similar to what's in an egg, and about 5 grams of fiber. You also get about 20% of your body's needs for folate and manganese. And folate is great for improving our blood cells, and manganese plays a role in our bone health. But it also contains iron, and we've talked about this before a little bit, that the plant form of iron is not absorbed as easily by our body, but it's a power couple, it's one of our power couples. But when you combine it with vegetables or fruit that are rich in vitamin C, so the leafy greens that we have here, the fennel, it actually improves the absorption of the iron from the beans. So it's one of our favorite power couples, and so I love that combination of beans and greens. If you don't have greens, I guess, like other vegetables that are high in vitamin C, it could be tomatoes, could be peppers, any of those. But yeah, I'll stop there.
Love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, so give it a few minutes, your aromatics, just to soften up a little bit, and then we're going to go ahead and add one of the traditional ingredients for this soup, which is called fragola. Now, fragola is almost like a little pearl pasta, which is very hard to find here. I went to a few grocery stores, couldn't find it. Probably have to go to some specialty stores here, but a really good substitute would be this pearl couscous. Sometimes you'll see labeled as Israeli couscous. It's just like a bigger sort of pasta grain. Has this really nice sort of soft texture to it. So this is what's traditionally used. Now you can use other things as well. I mean, you can, use whole grain, you can use barley, you can use spelt. You can throw that in there. Completely up to you. But traditionally, it would be sort of this small pearl pasta. So we're going to add that now.
And just some trivia, I had to look up fregola. Even though I have a Italian background, I had no idea what fregola was. And it's actually from the Latin, so the word comes from the Latin word ferculum, which means crumb. So basically just small bits of pasta, nothing major. I know, nothing really earth-shattering.
All right, we're going to put fregola in, or the pearl couscous, just to toast up a little bit, and then we can go ahead and add our beans. Like Daniela mentioned, we're using the broad beans, so those are these really big beans. These are fun. They're so much fun in the soup because you have this really nice big bite. You can use any beans that you want in this as well. We are using a very convenient, easy canned bean because it's drain and rinse, and you can use it. If you do want to use a dried bean, you can do that as well. Cook it though in advance. So you will need to soak that overnight. Cook it for an hour, 2 hours until tender, and then it's ready to use. The idea is we want to just be quick with this soup.
Yeah.
Don't fuss too much.
And also, if you have any GI distress with beans, it's good to, if they're dry, discard the water, replace the water. Even with the canned beans, discard the water that contains the indigestible starch, and that'll make it easier for your digestion.
Beautiful. Okay, so that's what we have here, and then we're going to add our liquid. We have a veg broth, you can have a chicken broth, Just add water. Use whatever you have.
We can already smell. I was going to say the studio, but it's a kitchen. We can already smell it.
Studio?
Can you smell it at the back there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll bring it up to a boil, and then once it starts boiling, we will reduce the heat to low, cover, and simmer. And it's really just until that fragola or pearled couscous is cooked. And it doesn't take long, it's like 10 minutes, and you're good to go. Okay? Once we're at that point, we have one done, our big pot.
For us, right? Yeah. Oh, of course.
We'll do a little swap.
I don't want to be teasing the people at home.
Yeah.
It's a little pot.
All right, so we have the broth, and you can probably smell it, but all the beans, that sort of pearled couscous is sort of plumped up a little bit, and then the aromatics from the fennel and the onion and the garlic are giving it. And what happens too is as it slowly cooks, some of the starch from the couscous is going to release to thicken it up a little bit, and some starch from the beans as well. So again, it's this idea of like it's like a heartier soup, right? And then right at the end, right before serving, we're gonna add our greens and a really, really big handful of herbs. Camera shot too. There you go. Get it all on. Any herbs?
That was my question. Yeah.
So I have, from the research that I have done, traditionally they would use what they had access to. I've seen tarragon mostly and parsley mostly, but it's probably whatever's growing in the backyard that tends to be, what goes into the soup. So I have parsley and tarragon in here, but you can use any handful of herbs. And then we're using some dandelion. So these are bitter greens. You can use arugula as well, which I've seen commonly used. But any sort of, or escarole. Escarole is probably another one that you would probably see used in this recipe. Anything that has a little bit of a bite. So that arugula is going to have a pepperiness to it. The dandelion is going to have a little bit of that bitterness to it. So it's going to play well with the sweetness from our aromatics.
Great.
I'm going to go ahead
Yeah,
and
go
add it.
ahead and add
Beautiful.
that in.
All right.
Yeah, for sure. And you've probably heard us talk about non-starchy vegetables versus starchy vegetables. And so the greens are a non-starchy vegetable, and it's because they're high in nutrients, but very, very low in carbohydrates, so very low in starch. And they're also very low in calories. So when you hear us say, increase your intake of non-starchy vegetables, it's these types of vegetables we're talking about. And your red peppers would fall in that. The fennel would fall into that. Let's see, what else? Green beans, radishes. We could go on and on, but that's kind of the difference. In our next recipe, we're going to be using both. So we'll talk a little bit more about the starchy vegetables there. But I see my favorites coming out here. Lemon and Parmesan. Parmigiano
cheese, yeah. So the lemon, we're going to go right at the end. In here, this is a very seedy one. You don't want to. Sometimes you cut into it, no seeds. This would be way too many for me to catch. So seeds caught with a sieve.
My hand isn't so strong, so
you can use a little technique as a fork, and you just put it right in the middle. To the fork, everyone, a fork, and you just squeeze it around the fork.
I've started doing that. It's much easier.
Much easier.
I tried to do Jeremy's technique, but it's like, nope.
Yeah,
my hands are not strong.
Yeah. So
my hand grip strength. I guess I need to work on that, right?
We'll add as much as you want to taste. A full lemon for this size pot is good. If you're doing a smaller batch, I can go to taste, but I think half of them will be fine. But again, right at the end, right before serving, just to retain that sort of freshness from lemon.
And are you going to put the Parmesan there or in the plate? Okay, because I was just going to move the...
Yeah.
I've learned how to move the remote.
Yes, we're both learning. All right, ready to play.
Oh, you're coming here? Or should I?
Come here.
Okay. I'm all excited. I really want to touch the remote.
Use it. Go for it.
Number 3, right? That brings us, oh, see.
We'll go to number 2 if you don't
Go to
mind.
number 2. Okay.
Follow me. There we go.
There we go. I didn't follow you.
There we go. And then just a little bit of that. You can use Parmigiano, or you can use a little pecorino. Just a little touch of that sharp cheese. A little bit goes a long way.
Is your mouth watering in
On
here?
top.
Yeah, mine is.
And that is our serbutsu, our version of it, for recipe number 1.
Great. Okay. Now.
Any questions about this?
Yes. Any questions? No?
When you mix quinoa in it, do you think it would be too soft?
It would be soft, but it depends on what you want. That's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
What I would do is probably cook it on its own
Okay.
and then add it in.
Mm.
Quinoa can also have this bitterness to it, which is why sometimes it's recommended to rinse it off first and then cook it. But you can definitely add that in. Quinoa, you can add what we'll be using next, the next recipe in here. We'll foreshadow with our millet. So any other grain you can absolutely use instead.
I was just thinking more like gluten-free.
Yeah, for sure. There's a gluten-free option. Absolutely.
Yes, yeah, gluten-free.
Yeah, millet.
Millet is
one too.
gluten-free too.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, that was going to be one of my points.
All right.
Okay. So our next recipe, our second recipe is we've traveled now to Japan, and we're going to have and it's inspired, right? It's not something specifically from Japan, but it's inspired from Okinawa, Japan. We're having a warm root and millet salad with orange ginger dressing. And also for this type of weather, I like a warm salad, so this is wonderful. So similar to the Healthy Plate model from Health Canada and the American Institute for Cancer Research, where we say half your plate should be fruits and vegetables, the Blue Zone way of eating, it makes fruits and vegetables, or vegetables and fruit, the centerpiece of all meals and snacks. And it also replaces, instead of using refined grains, they also use whole grains. And the types of fruits, vegetables, whole grains varies from region to region, which makes it, it's the diversity and flexibility of this approach, right? So you don't always have to use the same foods. This salad, though, contains millet, which actually is a staple of Japan, and has several colorful fruit, vegetables included. And then it's topped with a fruity dressing that just enhances the flavors of this delicious dish. And if you want a protein boost, you can have the salad on its own, or if you want a protein boost, you can put a piece of salmon on top. So small amounts of fish is part of the Blue Zone way of eating. A handful of nuts or a handful of chickpeas are fine too. Yeah. Okay. Over to the chef.
All right. So we're going to start off with our root vegetables. So we're going to break this recipe down into 3 sections. We're going to do root vegetables, our dressing, and then talk about the millet as well. So with the root vegetables, you can use whatever you want. This is the time. We have access to, we're getting to the colder months where it might be one of the only local things we can get now. But right now I have some parsnips, I have some carrots, some sweet potato, and some radishes, which we always think of radishes like raw on like a veggie tray with a dip of some sort. Radishes are so much better roasted. You've never roasted radishes before. They are absolutely
Never
delicious.
had it roasted. Yeah.
they're
Danny, no.
so good. So try it roasted. So and what's lovely too is all these colors, right? Another vegetable that I have seen used often in a lot of recipes from Okinawa are these purple potatoes, these purple yams. It might be a slightly different variety than the ones we have access to here, but again, another great colorful vegetable that we can use.
Yeah. And the color,
Yeah,
shall I chat now?
absolutely.
Okay. So the colors, those of you that have been in some of our classes know that we talk about phytochemicals or phytonutrients. And so what we have here is a variety of phytonutrients, because the cool thing is that phytonutrients are connected to the pigment in the fruit or vegetables. So the sweet potato that is orange, the carrots that are orange are giving us more of the beta carotene, which is a great antioxidant as well. And then the purple ones are giving us more of anthocyanins, which is another antioxidant. And they work, they both help to reduce damage caused by, our bodily processes of oxidation, but they may interrupt that cycle of cell development at different spots. They can help with building immunity, they can help with being an anti-inflammatory factor. And then yellow, we have a little bit of yellow, that also beta carotene, but could also be lutein. And lutein is great for eye health. So they're all antioxidants. Antioxidants in your food is fine, enjoy them.
Beautiful. So just throw them on a pan, a little bit of oil, a little bit of salt, and then any other herbs that you want to throw in there. A lot of these woody herbs go well with root vegetables, so you have rosemary, thyme, sage, and I'm just not fussing with it. Right on top, and then just give it a nice little toss. Now the key that I find works really, really well, so if you're roasting root vegetables, so you get that really nice caramelization, is toss it so that it's evenly coated with that fat. You don't need too much, but you do want to make sure that it is evenly coated, because that fat will help. Will help to transfer the heat a little bit better to the vegetables to give you this really nice caramelization. And then the next step is to give yourself a little bit of time to spread out your vegetables. Okay, if I have them sort of overlapping each other, you'll get more of a steaming happening because the water does not have enough room to escape. And we don't want steamed root vegetables. We want some nice caramelized root vegetables. So give it a little bit of space, just like that, and then into your oven, 425 degrees Fahrenheit, so a little bit hotter, until you get some really nice color on the outside.
And I see you're using your parchment paper as per usual. The other thing about the fat, it actually helps you absorb more of the antioxidants from the vegetables. So that combination is great as well.
Yeah. So that was quick.
Yeah.
Super fast. You don't have one of these ovens, right?
Magic oven.
Yeah, magic ovens. But that is what we're looking for. So some really, really nice color on the parsnips, the carrots, and these radishes. Again, you can see like they sort of like blistered a little bit. You have these little wrinkles. They're so good. Really, really nice. Those onions, or actually I had some shallots in there, but really, really nice. That color, you can see my mouth is salivating. I can't even get the words out. That color is that caramelization, right? So that depth of flavor. Little. Nice shot. There we go. All right. That is what we're looking for. Okay. Now, step 2 would be the dressing.
Okay.
For the dressing, I'm going to take out my blender. You can
Do you want me
do
to
this.
move out of the way?
No, you're okay. You can do this by hand as well, but I find it a little bit easier to do with the blender. And what we're going to do is combine some of these ingredients, but the key here is this carrot. Now, if you've ever had like a Japanese salad dressing, sometimes you'll find it like in sushi restaurants, it has this amazing texture, this sort of thickness to it. It's the carrots that they add into the dressing. I love that idea of adding some texture. So it's a little bit different. It's not just like your oil vinegar dressing, but you have something a little more going on. And it also, because of the carrots, adding a little bit of sweetness. So you have this balance between your acid, so your sour, a little bit of your sweets, a little bit of your savory, your umami as well, without needing to add, like sometimes you'll add like sugar or honey to balance it out, but the carrot works really well in this case. So I'm going to grate about a 1/4 cup. I'm eyeballing this, but if you like it a little bit thicker, I'm going to add a little bit more.
bit more beta carotene
There you go.
of the carrots.
Then
And
we're
then what do
going
I
to
see
add
there?
a
Orange.
little bit of orange. You can add a little bit of zest too, if you want. On the outside, if you like that orange flavor, a lot of the essential oils will be in the zest. So put that zest in there.
And the juice? The zest and the juice.
And the juice. You can use that fork technique again if you want to help with squeezing
That would
it.
be me. Ooh.
Ooh.
Ooh. Should that reach the people in the
Carlo,
front row?
that's the splash zone. I forgot to warn you. A little bit of citrus.
A little bit of vitamin C there.
Yeah, there you go.
Actually, one orange, I mean, we all know that oranges are rich in vitamin C. So one orange this size gives you about 92% of your daily needs.
Wow.
I know.
You got about 5%. Maybe.
Yeah, there.
Yeah. Alright. So clean up a little bit. So orange, carrot. Put a little bit of that zest in there as well.
Smells good. Smells nice and fresh.
Adding some rice wine vinegar, about 2 tablespoons for that acidity. Ginger in my recipe, and I would suggest use fresh. I love the idea of fresh. Ran out of fresh. Thought I had fresh. So this happens at home. We're gonna pivot. We're gonna use a little bit of ground ginger. Now the ground ginger, I would use less, about a third of what you would use fresh. The ground ginger does have a little more of that heat to it. So what did I say? 2 tablespoons of fresh. Yeah. So we're gonna use about 2 teaspoons ish. Go to taste. I'll make it a dressing. And then a little bit of miso
Oh, yeah.
to this as well. About a tablespoon of miso. This is going to add that umami. If you've never used miso paste, it's a fermented soybean, essentially. Super flavorful. Most commonly, you've seen it maybe a miso soup, but it is great in dressings. It's great in stews, in braises. It's just has this really, really nice sort of savory depth of flavor. Okay, and then a little bit of olive oil, about 4 tablespoons. So we'll just double up on the vinegar, the rice wine vinegar. You have that bottle, backup bottle.
Backup bottle. Kind of heavy duty blender, too.
Oh, it's just a stick.
Just a regular?
Yeah, it's just a
Just a standard.
Okay. Blend. A little up.
Alexa, do you want to... Yeah, I'm not talking. It's not like when I'm at home and I can mute it.
Sorry, after you.
I was just going to fill in the space, but I realized that when we're here in person, there's no point to fill in the space. But
No mute button.
no mute button. I was just going to say about the ginger, right? Like may have some antioxidant, anti-inflammatory properties, and some people who have nausea find it really helpful to have something with ginger. So having ginger root around is a good idea. It can also help with digestion a little bit. So yeah. So I was just going to talk about ginger.
Okay, so we have this, the color of it too. Just beautiful.
I can really smell the vinegar. I think that's what I smell. No?
Yeah, for sure.
What can you smell anything from this? No. You will.
You will.
Will.
All right, so dressing is step 2. And then step 3 would be your millet. Now for millet, has anyone used millet before?
No.
Yeah, some of you, okay. Growing up, this, for me, I just remembered as bird food. Like, it was this is what you would,
Wasn't
would
sure
put on
where
the
you
backyard.
were going.
We never really cooked it. It was just birdseed. But millet is actually a wonderful whole grain that you can use. And like I mentioned,
Yeah, it's also gluten free, so it's a
Yeah.
great thing. It's a cereal grain, considered whole grain, and gluten free. So good choice.
and then also interesting to note, especially in Okinawa, it was one of the original grains used was this millet grain. And I think they're starting to
They're
put
going-
efforts into
yeah.
bringing it back.
Bring it back. Yeah.
Right. So millet, pretty easy to cook. 1 part of your millet to 2 parts of water. Okay, so 1 to 2, so what I do is toast it in the pan. 1 cup, let's say. So like for like a minute, just to toast the grain. That's always a good rule of thumb if you want to get some of that extra flavor up. Just toast your grain before you cook it. And then we're gonna add 2 cups of water. Once that comes up to a boil, cover it with a lid, reduce the heat to low, and cook it for 15 minutes. Okay. Once you cook it for 15 minutes, lift up the lid. If you fluff it up with a fork, and then just take it off the heat and just let it sit for like 10 minutes. Okay, and that'll sort of absorb any excess moisture, and what you get is this really nice, fluffy,
You bring it in.
fluffy grain. There we go. Yeah, super fluffy, and it's just this wonderful starch, which is a gluten-free starch, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
So it's another alternative to quinoa. If you've used quinoa before as like your gluten-free alternative, the millet is really, really good, and I don't get the bitterness that you get from quinoa. So.
Yeah, and it's also pretty good in protein. So like 1 cup of the millet gives you about 6 grams of protein and about 2 grams of fiber.
Okay, so we're gonna assemble this bowl. This is what I like to do. So a little bit of millet on the bottom. Take those root vegetables.
Those yummy roasted root vegetables.
Does the millet have a flavor?
It's pretty neutral. If you toast it in advance, you'll get a little bit of that sort of like toasted grain flavor, which is nice. But outside of that, it's pretty mild. So it's whatever you add to it that's going to help with the flavor. So we'll put some of those
This
carrots.
looks beautiful.
Again, I love the look of the roasted radishes. Top. And this, I decided to pick as many colors of the rainbow as I could.
Yes,
This
yes.
could be one. This could be like, don't make it super complicated, but if you have
If
them,
you can.
yeah.
If not, no worries.
There's a couple of those crispy onions.
And you could add, can you add Brussels sprouts to it? Just,
Brussels sprouts?
no.
Yeah. Brussels sprouts. We're gonna add a little bit of radicchio to it
Oh,
as
radicchio.
well,
Yes.
which is a really nice sort of leafy lettuce, but it's a little bit on a slightly bitter side. But if you don't like bitter, you don't have to add that. This will give it that little bit of freshness.
The little purple in it also gives an indication of some more of those anthocyanins in there. Yeah.
And then we'll take that dressing.
Oh, there's that dressing.
I think this is what will bring it all together. So a little bit of that sweetness, that savoriness, the orange and the ginger and the carrot on the top. And any of that extra dressing will sort of absorb into the grain. So this is definitely a different type of salad. More of a heartier salad. I think perfect for the winter. But also, because of that grain, that millet in there, it's a little more filling, it's a little more satiating as well, right? And that is our millet and root vegetable salad with orange, ginger.
Orange ginger dressing.
I got it. Yes. Orange.
It's your creation.
I know. All right. Any
Okay.
questions? Any questions about this recipe? And for those watching at home, I do see a question.
Yeah.
I think it was from the previous recipe. So some alternatives to fennel. Yeah. So if you don't have access to fennel, fennel is, like I mentioned, it's a nice aromatic. You can use celery. Celery would be a nice alternative, much more common, a little bit easier to access. So that would be a good swap for the fennel for recipe 1. If you're still watching. Anyone? Your questions? No? Maybe something to try?
They're just like, when do we eat?
Yeah, yeah.
Or maybe that's me projecting. You know? Is it? Just me. Okay.
All right.
So Wow, we've already finished our whirlwind tour, and now we're in Costa Rica. And this dish is inspired from there, and it's a cornmeal, almond, and seed cookie. And along with healthy eating guidelines, Health Canada, the American Institute for Cancer Research also encourage physical activity, right? And stress-reducing practices and community connections. Interesting enough, this is called community connections. The Blue Zones embrace this lifestyle as well. So they incorporate physical activity every day. May not be that they go to the gym. It may be that they're just going to walk to the store to get what they need, or they might use their bicycle to get out and get some activity that way. They also enjoy stress-reducing activities, so they may be doing meditation, practicing gratitude. Practicing gratitude is something I'm trying to do a bit more of, so I am grateful for everyone who's here in the audience. I'm also grateful for the people who are joining us online. And they also value community and close connection with friends and family. So these cookies are rich in protein, energy, and fiber, and great, easy to make, right? Easy to make?
Yes.
Okay, good. Easy to make and share with family and friends. But also, it's portable enough that you can take them with you if you're going on a hike or a bike ride. And if your appetite is low, they're also a great choice because of that high protein and high calories. They're also good to have as a little snack during the day, because many times when your appetite is low, you can only handle a small amount. So yeah, I'm excited to learn more about these cookies that we're using masa.
Yes, okay, so Costa Rica, like we mentioned, one of the blue zones. After doing a little bit of research, I discovered that there's a biscuit or cookie made there that uses cornmeal and has cornmeal, water, and some shredded shark cheese in it. Looks, yeah, incredible. Looks really, really amazing. And it reminded me of something that we typically make around, not always around the holidays, but any time of the year. It's called tarali, which are these like circle biscuits, right?
A little bit harder, right?
A little bit harder, and that's the idea. A little bit crunchier, not like super sweet. You can make them sweet, but what we wanted to do is add something in it, right, to sort of bump up the nutrition, to make even like the small bites
Exactly.
a little bit more fulfilling. So we're taking some inspiration with the cookies made with the masa, and we're going to add a few things just to bump it up a little bit. So we're going to start off with 3/4 of a cup of masa flour. Masa flour is corn flour. Okay. Now the masa flour, sometimes you'll find it sort of hydrolyzed with a lime in it, which makes just the flour a little bit softer. You can find it without that. You can use either for this, but any sort of milled fine masa flour will work. And then we're going to finish off the cup. So 3/4 of a cup of masa and then 1/4 cup of almond flour. And the almond flour is going to add that little bit of richness to it that it would be missing otherwise.
And nuts and seeds are also popular in the Blue Zone way of eating, so it's a great choice. And someone asked about gluten-free. This whole dish is going to be gluten-free because the almond flour, the masa, both are gluten-free.
Yeah. And now this is where we're taking a little twist on it. We're going to add some seeds, some different seeds. So this will give it some of those that crunch, that really nice taste, but also has some healthy fats in here.
Lovely healthy fats. Yeah, actually, the pumpkin. Do you have pumpkin seeds?
I have some
Some
sunflower,
pumpkin seeds,
some
sunflower.
pumpkin,
Yeah.
It was like a mix, some chia, some hemp. You can use whatever. you
Yeah,
want.
so depending, I have here information on hemp seeds and chia seeds and pumpkin seeds. And I think the great thing is having that mixture so you get the benefits from all of them. So for instance, the protein is the highest in hemp seeds, a little bit more than chia seeds. Whereas the rich omega-3s is more in also the hemp seeds. Actually, hemp seeds are winning out here with what I've highlighted on my
I did
sheet.
not know that. I
Yeah,
thought
yeah.
sheets and everything were pretty similar. But I guess
Yeah. But there's also like there's some great goodness, mostly soluble. No, insoluble fiber for the chia seeds. Yeah. But you get that variety. It's good to get the variety because some have a bit more of the vitamin E, vitamin K. So getting that variety.
All right, so seeds go in. This is something that I wanted to do and I forgot to include in my recipe. A little bit of orange zest I think would be really nice in here. But you can add, again, any flavors you like. So cinnamon would be really good. Some nutmeg, some grated nutmeg in here would be really nice. Vanilla would be nice. So this is where you can sort of experiment a little bit. And then we're going to add our water. So it's 1 cup to 1 cup. Okay? Now because we're making this dough, and it's warm water. That's why I brought the kettle over.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be boiling, but just slightly warm. And we may need to adjust. So what I'm looking for, so about 1 cup to 1 cup. If it's still very dry in the mixture, we'll add a little bit more water. And if it's still the dough's very wet and sticks to my hands, then we'll add a little bit more of the masa. Okay? So I want a dough that can easily fold in together that won't stick to my hands. Okay? Now, you can make this on the savory side or the sweet side. On the sweet side, I'm going to add a little bit of maple syrup. You can add a little bit of honey too if you want. And again, you're in control, so you don't have to add too much. These aren't going to be like your traditional cookies for sure. They're more of like a tea biscuit, I guess. Or biscuit with the coffee or tea. All right, so a little bit of that sweetness in there. We'll mix it. We'll start with our spoon to mix everything together so it's well combined. I can tell I'm going to need a little bit more flour. So some of that masa goes in.
What kind of flowers do you use?
It's masa, so corn flour.
masa.
Yeah, just the corn flour. You could make this if you want with just regular all-purpose flour.
What about
as well.
almond flour?
If it's just, so I have a little bit of the almond flour in here. If it's just the almond flour, you can. The ratios might be a little bit different, and it might be a little bit crumblier because of just the almonds. So it might not hold as well together.
Since you're here, just recommending if you need to add more flour to add the massive flour, not more almond flour.
Yeah, you can. I find if you have the masa, go with that because here I'm really trying to just play with the ratios to make sure that it absorbs some of that excess. Whereas the almond flour, it won't do as good of a job.
It's a little
So
more
grow
chewy,
the
it
water.
doesn't hold
Yeah.
it.
It won't hold it together. Yeah. So we have our dough, and I can feel it's still slightly tacky, but I want it to be nice and soft. And if you've ever, this is going to take you back. If you've ever played Play-Doh before, that is essentially what we're looking for.
Play-Doh texture. Okay.
Play-Doh texture, yeah. So
Did you add that
it's
to
still
the
a
recipe?
little. No, I didn't. Maybe I'll include that. But because I could feel as I'm kneading that it's still sticking slightly to the palm of my hand, I will add a little bit more of that flour. So now I'm getting to the point where it's not sticking anymore, and it is nice and soft. So we're good. So that's exactly what we want. Okay? And now with this dough, we're going to go ahead and shape our little cookies, our little biscuits. So I'll show you the traditional way. Again, this is where you can have fun with it. You can make any shape you want. So we'll take a little piece, about a tablespoon amount of that dough. Okay? We're going to roll it around. Try to get the shot there. There you go. With the palm of our hands to make a little sort of ball. And then I find it easier to do on a flat surface. I was doing it between my hands and just making all these weird shapes. So if you just gently roll that ball into about a 2 centimeter stick like that, sorry, just a 2-inch long stick like that. And then we're just gonna attach the ends, press it together, so you have almost like this little circle with this little top.
You may have
Remember
seen,
Tadalis?
yeah, I remember
It's-
Tadalis, and they
yeah.
also sell, you've seen them at the grocery stores too.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what you're gonna do. Now, this is essentially a ball of Play-Doh dough.
Now I was gonna ask, like, what if you just left it as a ball?
Baked it like
Yeah,
this.
me being lazy.
Like
Would
this.
that work? No, not that big.
Oh.
But you know, this like little.
I would press it.
You
So
would
that's
press
the
it.
thing. Yeah,
Okay.
you can definitely. So because it might be a little dense like this,
Yeah,
you press it.
you could do that too.
Yeah.
Maybe?
Just so and
Okay,
bake
but
it
it's
like
much
that.
prettier as.
But that's
yeah.
what I was gonna say. You can have fun with it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can. This is where. So I know we've talked about sort of mindful eating before in some of our classes.
Yes.
This is where the mindful cooking will come into play. So definitely don't make this if you're in a rush, but this can be super relaxing. Just rolling. I was doing this early in the morning
Were you?
today.
Yeah.
And it was just like kind of in my own, my own place. Really nice and relaxing. And then just roll it up. So the cooking time, we're gonna cook it for about 20 minutes.
Okay, and is it depending on the shape, right?
You're
If you do it like a ball or whatever, then it takes longer.
as long as it's thickness, it will take about the same amount of time. Yeah, I wouldn't make it much thicker than this
Okay.
because then it would get like really dense, really hard. These
And
are
is
not
that 350 or?
350. Yeah, 350. So for about 20 minutes, cook them until they're just slightly golden brown.
Oh yeah. Maybe
Okay.
we have that. Oh no, there it is.
So again,
Yeah, that's
roll.
350. So I feel that hemp was leading the charge when we talked about the seeds. So I wanted to let you know that the chia seeds actually has a lot more fiber than the hemp seeds. So the hemp seeds are great from like a protein perspective and a lot of the minerals. The chia seeds are leading the charge with fiber. There's almost close to 10 grams if you had an ounce of it. And and I think, let me see here. And then the vitamin K that's in the pumpkin seeds is a lot more. But they all have those healthy fats in them, which is great. Some good protein. You really could, you use the almond in here. So we also getting some good nutrients from the almond flour that's in there as well.
Yeah, but again, you can modify some of the ingredients. You can go savory or you can go sweet. Which is nice.
Okay.
Okay, so like I mentioned, 350 degrees. Finish rolling them out. I'm not going to do that at all.
You're not?
Finish rolling them out.
You could give us each a little.
Yeah, 350 for about 20 minutes. And again, you're looking for the color.
Can you freeze these?
Of course, you absolutely can freeze these. And what you're looking for
Oh, nice.
is you have these like little sort of cookie biscuits. These are good dunkers. You need a good dunker. These are really, really good
So
dunkers.
they're more crunchy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're on the crunchy side, so really, really nice as like a dunking biscuit.
So I see little
Oh, I
blobs
just drizzled a little bit of the maple
afterwards.
syrup. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
just to make it look pretty. But otherwise, this is what they would look like in a bowl. And you definitely get the aroma of the spices. So I put a little bit of nutmeg in this one.
Mm-hmm. Love the nutmeg.
So
But
do you want the honey drizzle after or within the
within it, this if you want to like plate it up. I was just looking at it. I'm like, this needs something because it looks a little boring on the plate.
And it's fine. For me, I'm like, oh, did the maple syrup jump out
No,
of
no,
the...
no. Yeah, inside. And again, it's optional too, right? You can go more savory if you want, but otherwise put whatever you want sweetness wise while you're baking the batter. Yeah. And there it is in the bowl. And that is the last recipe.
Yeah, we finished our tour.
Did it on time. We
Yeah.
finished our tour. So thank you
All done.
everyone for joining us. Thanks everyone watching.
Any questions?
Yeah,
Do they
any
have-
questions? No questions.
No questions there?
There. Any questions? Here.
No.
No. Stick around. You can ask. We're here. Danielle and I are here. But thanks again for joining us today. Hopefully you've learned a little bit more about the Blue Zone. I know I did. Why are they called blue? I'm going to share that one.
Right.
That's
a good trivia question, isn't it?
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
But again, for those watching at home, the recipes will be posted tomorrow with the videos from today's class. If you're here, you have the recipes to take home with you. All of our classes, all of our future classes, again, always on the third Thursday of every month, with our next on December 19th.
December 19th.
December 19th.
Yeah, right
December 19th.
before the holidays.
December 19th.
Double-check.
Yes, double check. Always double check. So December 19th is our next class, so we are doing one more class before 2025.
Yeah.
That'll be a fun class. So join us then. If you haven't subscribed, we'd love for you to subscribe. Click the notification bell. Lets you know anytime we have videos, recipes, classes.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I know I went off into the zone there. I was just thinking, for you, those of you here today and those of you watching, we haven't really decided. We always do like a holiday themed demo before the holidays, but if there's something specific you're wanting, let us know. Put it in the chat, or as you're here with us today eating, let us know, and we'll factor that in. You good with that, Jeremy?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
We're going to
you.
put it up for you to try all the dishes today, so stick around if you do want to try the food. Unfortunately, at home, you'll have to make it. So, yeah, thanks.
Okay.
All right. Good. Yay.
I'll just try some cookies just because I have to have it.
Oh, you have to go? Okay.